when I thought symbolically about some of the things that are happening in the Christian story that we think of in celebrating Easter, one of the things that came to my mind, and actually it came out of a discussion that I was having with Reverend Dan, and it's about breaking the glass ceiling. So I first heard of that term when I got my real estate license, and I was working up in Paradise, and for 14 years. And that was all a wonderful experience. And I learned so much, and I learned a lot about myself. And it was the first time that I heard of this idea of breaking the glass ceiling. And, it was in relationship to sales. And that we would never, at an individual, we would never sell any more or earn any more money than we believed was possible. So a lot of the work that we did as a team really, of course, I was already well steeped in the science of mind. Well, no, I take that back. I wasn't in the beginning. So, but anyway, I found that the two ideas, that personal growth led into spiritual growth, because spiritual growth is personal growth. We apply it to our personhood and to the things that we're experiencing in our lives. And so I hope that some of the things that I mentioned today will be relevant to what's going on in your life. When I went and I looked up glass ceiling, I was surprised, only because I didn't know it, that when this term became popular, that it was really related to women's issues of in the workplace, and being treated equal, and equal jobs and equal pay, and some might even say feminism. So I wasn't aware of that, because I was thinking of it more as a for all people. And so and this is the story of Jesus and his walk. Last week I talked about Palm Sunday and the consciousness within which he rode into Jerusalem at Passover, when this major annual celebration was going on, and the risks that he was taking. So his ride on the ass of the donkey, one can say symbolically, means that he had power and control over his emotions, and that he was breaking the glass ceiling of his own awareness. And it came because he was walking with God. That inner presence and power within him, it was personalized. It was a relationship, but it's a principle. It's a universal principle that is incarnated in all of life as it comes into form. And of course, we know through the story that was not where his journey didn't end there, that he still had a lot of trials to face, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, and he found all of his strength. He found all of his wisdom, as the story tells us, in the idea that it is the Father within. and that Father, that great power, that giver of life, was incarnated and manifested as his own being. Now, within this, there is a very important concept, and that is that God cannot be any more to us other than what we believe about ourselves. So what I believe about myself in terms of my capabilities, my ability to face challenges, whatever it is that might come before us in our life as an obstacle, as a stone representing a false belief, even though I say it's the power within me that does the work, I know that power as myself. I can't know it as you. And I can't know it as something that is outside of myself and separate. We know it in our own consciousness. And it shows up in our own individual creativity, our personhood, the way that we feel, the things that spark our imagination, the things that we want to be and experience and accomplish, that are so personal to us that we can't ignore it, especially when we're on the spiritual path. We cannot ignore it. It will not leave us alone because it's the truth of who we are. So, I've never, since our theme for the month is creativity, I've never really thought specifically about creativity as my own unique individuality. And I don't mean just a part of myself. I don't mean a part of myself that, that expresses as writing or art or any kind of creative expression. I mean all of myself as my true self, as your true self, because your imagination, your own individual creative ideas, that feeling of those clickers that light up. I use it on my grill outside to click the button and this fire comes out. It ignites this spark. And it's very much a part of the whole thing, the whole holder. It all works, right? It has different functions, but it's one thing. And what does it produce? It produces this spark that comes out and ignites and creates fire. It creates an experience and we do something with it. So, looking into the definition of creativity, oh my gosh, it's so varied. Creativity, the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. And isn't it amazing that two people can have a very similar idea, but what they do with it, what it ignites into, can be very, very different. Have you ever thought about that? That is so much a part of what makes a spiritual community. So if people are bound together in this higher spiritual principle of love, it's going to spark the imagination in so many different ways. And when we all show up with our own individualization of love, what a blessing it is for everybody. In order to embrace our creativity, here's the rub. We have to be willing to change. not to just, yeah, we have to decide we're going to change. But really, I think the decision is more, we have to decide to go with what's moving in us, that spark. Are we going to resist it? Are we going to ignore it? Or are we going to bring our whole self into it? That's what Jesus did. And he was able to do it because of his belief that he wasn't separate, that the voice of wisdom and freedom and creativity and the thinking about his whole ministry, which was short. And whether you believe that this is all historical fact or not, to me, that's not the point. It's what's the spiritual symbolism in this? What does this story have to teach us? Because every religion and every single culture has its own similar story. We have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to grow. And that will automatically transform us. Be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind, the new birth. See, sometimes I think of be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind, Christine. Okay, I'm going to renew my mind now. But this idea is taking me to the place of, oh, to be renewed, what I really need to do is to connect with that spark that's already within me, and how is it wanting to show up right now? And we have big themes in our life that are going on that take time to break through that glass ceiling, to dissolve it with our faith, to roll away the stones of doubt that we're not enough, that there's anything limited or lacking within us. If the idea is there, if there's something that is placed upon your heart, if there's something that you want to experience that you're not experiencing now, that is God ordained. It is your spiritual birthright, your divine birthright to have it. Rumi says, your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against love, that you've built against your own expression of creativity, the movement of your own consciousness, the unique you. On our meditation this last Thursday, I was really challenging us to love ourselves. I mean, really love yourself. Tell yourself, think about how much you love yourself. Say words of praise and affirmation, how wonderful you are, how beautiful you are, how unique, how creative you are. When I look at you, David, I think of that saying that you told me that meant so much to you. It's a question. If this were true for you, would you be more free? Yeah. But how easily it is, see, it's a habit. How easily it is that we forget to honor ourselves first, to pay attention to our own needs and wants and desires. Because see, here's the thing. When we do that, we're a blessing to everyone. We're not just a human doing. We become what the world is waiting for. Your task is not to seek for the thing, for anything outside of yourself, but merely, as Rumi says, to find the barriers, the stones, the blocks within yourself, the underlying false beliefs that you and I have built against ourselves. So yeah, creativity is the ability of a person, you and I, to perform or think of something in a way that has not been done before. Now, warning, don't let that stop you. Oh, I have to think of something that I've never thought of before, or that nobody has ever thought of. Well, that's kind of a lot of pressure. I find myself telling myself that every single week when I create a talk. But what I've learned is that my own creativity doesn't necessarily work that way. That I can write down resources and things that I've found in my research, but when it comes time in the moment, I'm probably going to say it a completely different way. And no doubt I'm going to say things that I haven't even thought of until the moment. And little by little, I've come to trust that. To just do in the moment in terms of putting it together. And then guess what? I have to trust. I have to trust the spirit within me. I have to trust that there's something for me to say when the time comes. Another definition of creativity is intelligence having fun. Whoa. Your own intelligence, your unique self having fun. Now, does that mean every single thing is fun? Not necessarily. But if we look at the tasks or the things that we need to do or desire to do, or even if they're not fun, that we know, this is important, I need to do it. This is saying that we can change our consciousness about it. We can change our perspective in how we're viewing it. And when we do that, well, how would I want to do this task? I may have this preconceived idea in my mind of how I need to accomplish this. But what if I took this concept of dissolving the glass ceiling with my faith, the idea that I am a unique, beautiful, creative, spiritual being having a human experience, having fun, and that I can take this task or this idea or this thing, and I can approach it any old way I want. I can sweep the floor, wash the dishes, do the laundry, clean my desk, take care of the dog, cook the meal, from my own perception. All right. Now I want to take a few minutes and I want to share with you specifically some of the science of mind principles of creativity and who we are that back this up. So in the science of mind, now before I share some of this with you, I want you to remember that whatever I say, whatever Holmes writes about a universal level of spirit, that the exact same thing is true for us. It's just individualized within us. So in the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook, there's a definition of this term, the creative medium. And this is really important because it lends to us this idea of why we can trust, what our own creativity is and why we can trust it. So this is not a super long definition, but it's not just a sentence. So here's what he writes. From the universal sense, it is creative medium is the world's soul. From the individual self, it's the subjective state of our consciousness, the subjective state of our thought. And just like the creative soil in which seeds are planted and from which plant life grows, this universal soul of the universe that is a creative medium, just like the soil, into which the words of spirit fall, and from which then creation happens. We must be careful, he writes, not to think of soul and spirit as separate, just like my idea that I was talking about the little butane lighter, all the parts of it. He says we must be careful not to think of spirit and soul as separate, for they're really two parts or aspects of the one same reality. They are self-existent and co-eternal with each other. Now you might say, okay, that's a lot of words. How does that relate to my creativity? Your word is spirit. Whatever you think about yourself, the truth that you think about yourself and your life and your ability to be creative, to do something absolutely new and different, to take a risk, what you believe and think about yourself, those ideas, such as the words he mentioned, the word of God, fall into this universal creative medium that is subjective. It is subject to what it receives, the seeds of our belief that it receives. And voila, creation happens. Things begin to unfold in our lives. And if the seeds that we are planting are, I am an expression of this infinite spirit of creativity. I am a unique, individualized expression of divine love. And my imagination is sparked in my own life of how that love wants to express through me. I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to step out there and be myself and do something different. I'm willing to roll away the stones and break forward to renew and to rise up into my next version of myself, because I am a spiritual being evolving. And every moment and every day and every month and every year, newness is unfolding in my consciousness. It cannot be any other way. But I can say no. I can ignore it. I can choose not to believe in it. Will it go away? Maybe for a while. Maybe that urge, frustrated and repressed, will manifest in ways that are unwanted. Anxiety, tension, feeling overworked, unsure of the future, overly worried and concerned. Overly, I emphasize that word. about the world situation. Because, see, in the book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, the author writes, there are no neutral thoughts. Every single thought is charged with a quality of energy. And when those thoughts, any thoughts, are charged with love, every single thought can contribute to the healing of the planet and the transformation of the world. Today, we have the technology to monitor groups that meditate together on peace, on harmony, on the truth, that unique ways and solutions to problems, to all manner of problems, are being manifested right now. And if nothing else, to just allow our consciousness to be a part of the solution in knowing peace and knowing that not only is that possible, but it's part of the Easter story. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving the other, forgiving every single thing that we hold against ourselves will automatically open that up to have that same thing happen for things that we hold against others, reactions that we have of anger, and how could they? So in closing, there's three, not little, but three things that I want to share with you that have to do with being creative, about breaking your own glass ceiling and rolling away the stones of doubt from the tomb and rising up. There are three qualities that we can nurture within ourselves. Number one is to encourage ourselves to be risk takers, to take risks. Risk takers, people that, well-known people that are highly, we look towards them and we go, wow. No matter what you think about, like Jeff Bezos, creator of Amazon, different opinions that you might have about things, that guy is creative. And you could say, oh yeah, well, he could take a big risk because he had a lot of money. But I venture to say that what is more important to a risk taker is the experience and what one gets to walk through when you take a risk, whatever is a risk for you, whatever is a risk for me, is a risk for me to get in alignment with the part of me that was saying, I need to let go. I need to let go of this position as spiritual director and minister. Oh, I struggled with it. I fought it. My ego tried to create all different kinds of ways that I could work around it and make it work. But it just kept coming back over and over again. Risk takers, and I mean, this message is for me too. I'm not putting myself up on a pedestal that, although I do take a lot of risks, I always have. But risk takers, once you make the decision, become eager and excited to take up a project that one might think is risky. Well, how's this going to work out? Why? because they find that they experience solutions and ideas that they never thought were possible. And they experience that within their own minds. Or another wonderful thing about a group project is trusting the wisdom of the group, bringing your own unique creativity. I tell you what, and the board does this. I would venture to say that a lot of things, we may think individually before a decision that we know what it should be, but a lot of times I've just thought, I'm not really sure what's the highest and best here. But when we come together, it's going to reveal itself. So risk takers find that they experience themselves in greater ways because they took the risk. And if it didn't turn out maybe the way that was envisioned, that something new showed up. Here's the second one that goes along with that. To accentuate our creativity, creative people that are actively using their creativity dare to fail. They have a dare to fail attitude. Whether they win or lose, succeed or fail, that's not the main purpose. The purpose, again, is the experience of the journey. It's not the destination. It's to know that there's an idea within you and that you can step out on the path because you can't fail. And you'll never be able to see the whole journey ahead of time. And lastly, creative individuals are willing to be different. They don't have to go along with what everybody else is saying or doing just because that's what everybody else is saying and doing. Have you ever had that experience that in some realm you find that you're thinking about something different than your friends or your tribe or your community or the way to approach a problem? I bet you've all been experiencing that. So have a look a little more deeply. Where in my life right now am I willing to be different? How about I'm willing to be different by making a promise to myself that every day I will affirm that I am wonderful and beautiful and creative. If you're here and you're listening to this, I would venture to say that you are already willing to be different. So pat yourself on the back, give yourself a nice little hug. So what is it that's wanting to bust out in you? Where is it in your life that you feel the most amount of fear and apprehension of taking a risk, doing something different, being different, and increasing your faith that you cannot fail? Remember, the task at hand is not to seek for anything, but merely to seek and find the barriers that you yourself have built against it. So take this day and make it unique, make it special, make it your own. Rise up, celebrate the birth of yourself that can't do anything different than show up brand new every single day when we live from these principles. You already are what you are seeking. Love and blessings, and happy Easter to everybody. And so it is.